All right, like people, thank you all for coming back on time. So, as we was talking about, right? So we are at the stage of the semester, like I said, before. A is plenty points remaining. All of you all, our primers are in good shape. I'm not sure if you got my email yesterday about making sure that when you look at your grades, that you tally your points. Do not look at the percentages on e-learning. Like again, they do some tricky calculation. Look at your points. And as I think that most of you saw from the midterm, you're in good shape in that regard. So I want you to get as good a grades as possible, but I don't want y'all to be worrying and stressing about that. I really, 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 really want you to devote as much energy to trying to learn this stuff as possible, because it's really important. Like I said, for your future career tracks, it's going to be really important. And then too, it's so important that we have more people viewing the world scientifically these days, as we've seen some of the problems that have occurred with people who don't have an ability to do that. So I encourage you again that even if you don't go on to uh, end up running the social science department in another 10 to 15 years, although you should, I think a lot of information that you'll be exposed to here will be invaluable to you. Because what the role of the researcher allows us to do many times, Latasia, it allows us to step outside of ourselves. When I talk about things like, for example, police behavior between blacks and whites, there are many people that will deny it as a matter of fact that there is disproportionate levels of police violence against black people. In spite of all that we've seen, there are people that say, no, that's just not true, and they'll explain it away somehow. So there are people that, again, so it's important. And some people, no matter what, we ain't gonna be able to change their minds. But it's important that we have facts and scientific information available to people to allow them to be able to make, some informed conclusions. Because for some people, information like that will be able to penetrate through. And if people can see that there's a problem, maybe they can address it and we can bring those deaths down. I know it ain't a lot of reason for optimism, but I'm never going to give up hope that informed people can make better decisions. Additionally, research allows us to step outside of ourselves in a way that hopefully the information will allow many white people to do, and just kind of see things from another perspective. That's more than anything else, that's what we would love to be able to do. So when we talk about the role here of the participant, the researcher, and the observer, it's almost like you're looking at this from three different perspectives at once. So if you were to if you were to use this model diamond for your research, you would go into somebody's home and you would have to look at it like you're observing his family, but also you got to describe your research as if you are some of the family members. That's a huge challenge to be able to meet. But with more practice, and again, there are models that we can follow that allow us to be able to do that. The relation to these subjects are connected to the ideas of objectivity, alien/Martian. And what this speaks to is that even in familiar settings, Latasia, you got to almost treat yourself like an alien. And hear me out here, all right? That you're going to go into this home, Diamond, and you're going to think that you already know how things are going to play out and what you expect. You got to go in there like you have never been in a single parent home in your life, and you got to find a way to almost try and forget everything that you thought you knew. That's really, really hard, right? And again, we're going to talk about some examples of this in a moment. But you have to almost view it like an alien, like you don't know nothing about this situation. Because otherwise, Janaya, you're going to bring your biases into that situation. And that situation may not necessarily and then if you're biased, you're not necessarily recording what's actually happening. You're recording what's happening through your biased lens. And that's very different. So what happened to that dude in Minnesota, right? I want people just to watch that and just say what happened. As opposed to some people will watch that and hey, that's a threatening, scary black boy. Maybe he is, But what did you see in that video that was scary or threatening? What did you see? So let's just go with what you saw and work from there. But checking our biases is very difficult, and that's one of the things that we want to try and get to with scientific, with qualitative research in this section. But it's really important that even in looking through these sources, Devicia, you got to check your biases. All human beings got them. All human beings got them. That's normal and natural. You have to find a way to be aware of yours and guard against them. Now, when we talk about qualitative field research, Janaya, there are several different types. And even under these models, there's a subsection of methods that can be utilized. Some of the ones that we'll talk about today include naturalism. And listen to exactly what it sounds like, Janaya. Natural, 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 natural. You're studying people in their natural environment. So think of like, y'all have probably seen the show Undercover Boss, right?
Yes, sir.
Where if you are on your job, Diamond, I'm not sure if you're working now, but say, for example, for the sake of argument, say that you were, that if your boss came, like, and was managing your work and you knew it was them, you probably would behave, very differently, right? But what your boss want to see is, how does Diamond act when she don't think I'm actually looking? Because that's going to get you closer to the truth, right? So naturalism involves studying people when they don't really know that they're being studied. In that way, Devicia is the best way to get closest to truth. But the problem with that is that it's not easy to get access to people in their natural environments like that. It may sound easy, but how many people gonna let you know? How many, again, maybe in your job where you ain't got no choice, how many people are you gonna, reality TV may look great. How many of us want to go on a reality TV show and allow all aspects of our lives be exposed? Even though, of course, we are intelligent enough to know that reality TV ain't really reality TV, but y'all know what I'm saying. Ethnomythology, grounded theory, case studies. Case studies, Janai, is where you can look at a single isolated case. There are instances where you can justify this scientifically. Like we said before, we generally want to look at patterns. But let's see, let me see. Let me think. Actually, I was going to take some examples, but now I'm just going to rely on the authors in a moment. Give me a second. Other things to consider are institutional ethnography and then participatory action research. Participatory action research. In this research, Devicia, you're not only observing, but you're also participating in it yourself. You're not just a second-hand observer. You're actually within it yourself, and you're observing both what you're seeing around you and your responses to being within this social environment. Let's look at naturalism a little bit more closely. As always, when you see a concept in italics, please study it closely in preparing for the quiz. There is no final exam in here. There is no final exam. The final paper is your final assessment in this class. So the ethnography, Janaya, are the notes that you take in your naturalism. So again, when I would go at the bar and I would take notes, again, people don't know I'm there doing that. Sometimes I would sit there with the notebook. Most of the time, though, Diamond, I would just kind of like mentally process everything I'm seeing, and then I would go to my car and write it out real quick before I forget. I understand it. I'm not going to remember everything. I might put some notes in my cell phone or something like that, look like I'm texting somebody. But if people know that I'm studying them, as we've seen like with the Hawthorne effect early in the semester, it can affect people's behavior in that environment. And we don't want to affect their behavior, Diamond. Again, like if you know, like, hey, I'm finna come and study, Latasia, you and your kids, and how your parenting style affect their educational attainment. How do you think that's going to affect Latasia and her parenting style if you tell her that? Anybody?
Could you repeat that one more time? You was going in and out on my end.
Go ahead, Diamond. I'm sorry. It looked like you shouldn't chime in.
I mean, she gonna be like on her P's and Q's, like she gonna try to do everything the right way because she know that you observing her.
Good. So yeah, the question Janelle said, if we were looking at, very good, what that's credit point, Diamond Thomas. If we were looking at Diamond's question and looking at the role that single parents play in the educational attainment of their children, if Latasia knows that Diamond's gonna study that, Latasia finna be just super scholarly. She's gonna be breaking up all types of encyclopedias, dictionaries. She's gonna be super bomb that day.
The Hawthorne effect, right?
Exactly. So it's like, okay, is that who she really? And what we want to see is who Latasia really is every day. Not the show and pony, the horse and pony show. We want to see who you are every day. So in that way, you cannot let her know, because this ain't just about Latasia. Almost anybody will respond that way. So you can't let her know exactly what you're trying to find out, Diamond. Otherwise, she'll show you. There have been some famous studies, and again, look at the text for examples, please, please, please. It'll make your research so much easier, quite frankly. So there have been many studies that have utilized field research. For example, Street Corner Society that was done by White in 1943. And this basically like, these were like white ethnic gangs. I want to say this was in New York. And he just basically wanted to see like, man, why are these cats like, why are these white boys out here thugging on the street all day? How come they not going to school? Why they get into all types of trouble? Why they be behaving this way? Like, why? Again, the fundamental question in social research is why. You cannot understand the culture of this these street gangs, Diamond, just by like secondary research or by like, getting surveys. You would have to actually go study them up close and kind of live how they did. So that's what he did. Another really instrumental study, again, where we try and like, where we talk about cultures, right? Cultures are values, traditions, and norms of different groups. The homeless also, for better or for worse, have their own unique subculture. But we can't possibly understand that culture if we don't like really immerse ourselves amongst the homeless. To really understand what it's like to be homeless, you gotta be homeless. Now, for me personally, Devicia, that ain't something that I'm willing to do. But these were some really devoted researchers at Snow and Anderson. So look here, y'all. For over 12 months and 405 hours, not 12 continuous months, they went home sometime, but over a period of 12 months, they placed themselves amongst 24 homeless communities. So they had to go out there and sleep on the streets and get abused and treated a certain kind of way and live as if they were homeless. So this is an example of field research where the purpose here is to try and understand what is it like to be homeless. And in that way, they learned a lot more than you ever could by reading some of these books. They found 3 things. And you ain't gonna be tested on this, just to give you some context. They found that homeless people actually distance themselves from other homeless people, that you might think that they might click up and look out for one another, but Most of them kind of want this, like, nah, dog, like, look, I'm already depressed and going through it enough. I just want to be left alone over here. Many of them, though, quickly embrace the street life identity. And they also told fictive stories. Fictive stories like Latasia that either like explained away their homelessness. Hey, I used to be an executive vice president. I used to play with the Charlotte Hornets. Or, hey, I had 2 job interviews, but they was tripping, so I didn't want to go in. So a lot of times, you will see a lot of things like that to kind of justify their state. Grounded theory is another element, another paradigm within field research. Listen to the concept itself. So a theory does what again? What does a theory attempt to do?
Explain the cause of it.
Good. So a lot of times, again, the theory may come from experiments, surveys, secondary data analysis. With grounded theory, you're kind of making a theory as you go along based upon the variables that you're seeing as you observe them. See, I'm trying to balance it out, y'all, for get hydrated. So again, here, you want to think conservatively, and I think you want to do this in general. By thinking conservatively, it means that even though you have this hypothesis, Diamond, I think it's healthy to go into it assuming that you're wrong. Like, again, you want to, so you're like, look, this is probably a wrong guess, but I'm going to make it anyway. And then ultimately, you eliminate alternative explanations. So you're like, hey, now this hypothesis I came up with, this is the only possible explanation. Again, think back like we talked about, right? The original topic about whether or not your boyfriend is cheating on you. You don't want to believe that he's cheating on you. So you want to eliminate, you want to go through all the different thought processes, and you want to only think that he's cheating on you when you got no other choice but to believe that, when the evidence is just overwhelming. But you like, nah, I got to be blown away by the evidence first. I'm too invested in this relationship to just let any small piece of evidence sway me. That's the same thing we want to do in social science. That we don't want to be swayed by small pieces of evidence. That's why, so again here, right? When I talked about he spent 12 months and 405 hours, he spent a lot of time here. Like, a lot of times when people speak about things, we want to make very short conclusions and we want to get our information very quick. In science, that ain't our goal. It takes a lot of time to really have some deep concepts sometimes. So we have to spend a lot of time, again, when you got to go through those sources. I know it's not always fun. I know sometimes it can be time consuming. It's necessary for you to be able to answer those questions sufficiently. This allows you to obtain multiple viewpoints, to be able to step back from your larger biases and preset conclusions. You want to maintain an attitude of skepticism. And then follow and trust your research procedures. We talked about research design earlier in the chapter of how you want to go about setting up your research to answer your question effectively. So you want to trust that design, or if you see something flawed with it, you can adjust or change it if need be. A couple more things here. And again, bear with me, please stay with me. As always, when you see something in italics, study it closely and prepare for the quiz. And we don't have many classes left, so you know it's coming soon. So like we talked about before, Davicia, generally we want to look at patterns that if we look at, too often people will look at a single case to try and explain the situation. That because this one person um, did a whole bunch of cocaine and didn't overdose, that means that you don't overdose for cocaine. No, dog. Because this person I knew had sex and didn't never had protected sex and didn't get HIV, that means that HIV isn't really dangerous. No, they got lucky. Because this white person I saw on YouTube got killed by the police, that shows that there are unequal levels of violence against unarmed people by the police. White people get killed too. Of course, white people get killed too. Not at the rate that black people do. So when we look at isolated cases, sometimes the same way, like if, hey, man, I went to, New York one day and it was like 110 degrees. I went to Phoenix, it was like only 90 degrees. So New York is way hotter than Phoenix, right? No. On that one day that you went, yes, those things are true. But what we generally want to look at is patterns. If you are going to take a single case, though, it can't just be an isolated, cursory analysis in a way that we might do with a single day of weather. It requires a really in-depth examination of a single case. Because there may be some instances, for example, that we may not get a lot of examples of. So do y'all remember what a feral child is? F-E-R-A-L, a feral child. Do y'all remember what that is?
No, sir.
No worries about. We didn't talk about it in here. This is like y'all freshman year.
No, sir.
A feral child. So this is a child that's essentially wild, that they were essentially raised in the wild. We obviously can't study too many patterns of children like that, because it would be unethical and inhumane for us to just hey, let's put this little child, this baby, when they're born, let's put them out in the wild and see what happens. That would be unethical. So for the most part, if there has been an abandoned child, we bring them in, and they may not, they may have to be subjected to life in an orphanage or something like that, but they will at least be able to be reared by human people. Feral children was literally almost raised by animals. There are a couple of case studies of this in History Diamond, but only a couple. So that was this Civil War many years ago. This little kid, I guess got left in the melee after his kinfolk and him got killed in the Civil War. He essentially was raised by monkeys for a short amount of time. True story. And he behaved pretty much like them. So we can use that case study, Diamond, that isolated case study, to show that most human beings, that's probably what's going to happen to them, even though, unlike most social science research, we don't have 500 cases to show you. So keep this in mind. Really quickly, talking about participatory action research, and then I'll let you all go on this point. This is where you involve the people that you're researching, Diamond. Again, like I talked about before with naturalism, they don't know that they're being studied. With participatory action research, they do. So in this way, a lot of it is tied to emancipatory research, where we may do research, for example, that says okay, look, we know in this community, in this single parent household, Diamond, that after we have seen that after doing your research, Diamond, that it's less about male or female single parent. I don't know that this is true. I'm just throwing a claim out here. It's less about male and female single parent. It's more about the nutrition that these kids get. That's for the best predictor of educational attainment, that we can use it that way. So you can do a study like, okay, look, I, Diamond, think that if we can make sure that all the kids in these communities get school lunches, that their grades will improve by 15% this year. And y'all hear how I'm stating this empirically? I'm using numbers, right? 15%. I'm going to input this variable of more nutrition, more food. Yeah, he's getting breakfast in the morning. A lot of these kids going to school hungry. So I'm going to get them more breakfast in the morning, and that's going to lead to higher test scores. And you're telling the people that are involved in this research, Diamond, that that's what you're trying to do. So you come to this community like, hey, look, I got this idea, but I can't just come in and implement this. I need y'all help. What do y'all think about this idea? So those are things, so keep this in mind, right? Because I know that a lot of the work that you all want to do with your careers, I believe and I sense that a lot of y'all want to do work that's similar to this, where it's emancipatory, where you try and do research to actually make life better for people. My sense is that that's many of your goals, correct? So
Yes,
there
sir.
are ways that you can go about doing that and involving the communities themselves. So like I said, keep these things in mind. Like obviously it can be really important for, your academic career. But I think just in terms of like, your professional career, just good citizenship, these are things that can be incredibly helpful as well. We'll pick up some more with this on Thursday. Keep in mind that you got a quiz that's coming up. Who knows when it could be? It's a pop quiz, so I don't know when it could be. But if I were you, I would get ready. Are there any questions or comments before we go for the day?
I have a question after you in class.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Davicia, hold tight for a second.
No, sir.
All right, and some of y'all owe me some drafts in a couple of days, so I'll be looking out for them. I will see y'all on Thursday. I'm gonna kick everybody else out. Hold tight, Davicia. What's going on with you, Ms. Brisbane?
Okay, you know the quiz that you let me retake, the first one?
Yes.
Are you gonna add those points in at the end?
I'll go and add them up. I hadn't checked them. If I have not checked them yet, it's an oversight, so I'll look into them today. And I'll add them in.
Okay, and I went see when you was gonna look over the research proposal. I don't know if you had got mine, but I had turned it in. I didn't know if you got to those, graded it yet, to make sure I did okay with that one.
Yes, I have graded the research. I have graded the proposal, so you should see those points updated on the site.
Okay, let me look right quick. I think I see 2. Because I was looking at it just now.
Mm-hmm. Now open up mine as well.
Oh, because I have 2. It's 2 of them that why I didn't see it. First one didn't say anything.
Okay,
for sure.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, everything else should be updated, but I'll check out that first quiz. Make note that the second one is coming up rapidly, so please study accordingly. And I highly
at first I
recommend
thought you had opened it.
and I highly recommend that you go back and look at the first part of today's lecture.
Yeah, those research proposal, the research methods.
Well, I talked about the methods for sure, but like I talked about the paper, I talked about the paper and presentation as well. So
the part I had missed. Okay.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for you, Miss Lady?
No, sir.
All right. If any others do come to mind, let me know.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.